watched the popular Korean drama 2521, you're probably a little familiar with fencing by now. A lot of people wondered about the accuracy of the 14-14 point call in the Asian Games finals. Well, I believe the call in the show was wrong, but don't quote me on that. For the people that aren't so familiar with fencing, here's a quick clip of what it looks like. People often call fencing a game of physical chess because of how it requires both strong physical capabilities as well as a shrewd and nimble mind. I started fencing when I was 8, and at 19 years old now, I would like to think I've learned quite a fair bit in the past 11 years of fencing. As such, let me share the 5 most significant things people have shouted to me while I was fencing. Number 1, plan ahead. Before the referee says start or allez, you need to decide exactly what you're intending to do. Will it be an aggressive action or feint attack followed by strong defensive action? If the referee says allez and you're still trying to decide what you want to do, or even worse, you have no plan in mind, what you'll be doing is reacting to your opponent rather than taking the initiative. And I don't think I have to spell it out in words for everyone to understand why reacting rather than taking the initiative would put you at a disadvantage in a bout. Similarly, on a regular day-to-day basis, I believe it is better to be able to anticipate what will be happening in the coming future, and hence I think planning is incredibly important, especially in the workplace or in school. But the planning you do must be rational and effective. Planning isn't about trying to fit in all the things on your to-do list within the shortest amount of time. Planning is about managing deadlines, understanding your capabilities and limits, and knowing how to leave room for unexpected situations. While I do enjoy the occasional spontaneous adventure and whatnot, being confronted with numerous unanticipated situations can be difficult to manage, and that's why I always plan ahead. So people often wonder how I've been able to juggle both school and fencing, and my answer is exactly this: I planned ahead. Number 2, commit. Beyond simply planning the action you intend to carry out, you also have to be able to commit to it. Perhaps your opponent's initial action may not have been what you expected. But honestly, contrary to popular belief, fencing is not so much about what your opponent is doing, and instead more so about how you can create the optimal situation for yourself to be able to score the touch you had planned for. Instead of being frightened of or discouraged from carrying out your chosen action, commit to it. Trust yourself and trust your plan. Of course, things don't always turn out the way we planned, but it's always better to have tried and failed than to not try at all. Plus, I stand to believe that the instant when your mind is most clear and focused is right before the referee says start. And hence, it is better to trust the decision you made at that time rather than in the midst of all the action, where all the different possible actions you could do are flying over your head and you're struggling to both decide on the best course of action and focus on your opponent. I think being decisive and committing to things can be pretty tricky sometimes because of the abundance of choices on offer in our world today. From things like what you want to eat, to what activity you feel like doing today, to even what tuition center you should be attending. Being able to have numerous options and having the freedom of choice is frequently celebrated because of the vast amount of liberty afforded to an individual. However, I would like to say that too much freedom can also be a bad thing. We are always second guessing our decisions because of all the possible what ifs. Thus, there is a strong need to be decisive, to commit, to adhere to your initial plan, and to go through with it all the way, because there must be a logical reason why you had decided on it in the first place, right? And honestly, when you guess the answer to the exam question, isn't it always the initial choice that's correct? Number 3, you need to be able to recognize the difference between the things that you want to do and the things you need to do. Every fencer has different strengths and habits. In turn, this means that some actions will work better against particular types of fencers. In such scenarios, then, the right thing to do would be to use an action that's most suitable against your opponent's fencing style. However, at times, this can be an action that you're not as confident in, or it's just not as fun to do. This is where advice number 3 comes in. While the action may not be something you necessarily want to do, you need to do it if you want to win. Using a more relatable example then, in school, what I want to do is organize study groups with my friends so that we get more time to hang out. And I mean, that's the idea that I'm studying, right? But realistically speaking, at least for me, I'm not as productive when I study with my friends. So what I need to do then is to set aside the desire to study with my friends and head home to study instead. I think, as most people can tell by now, this is a clear case of your heart versus your mind. It's very, very easy to fall prey to our emotions, to our desires, and push aside the things that ultimately should come first. But we need to be rational in our decision making. That's not to say that the mind should always triumph the heart. It's about being able to find the balance between the two, whereby you feel happy and you have done what you ought to do. Number 4, don't overthink and don't respect your opponent too much. After being in the fencing scene for some time, you're bound to become familiar with all the top fencers in the world. You know their world ranking, the opponents they've won, their win-loss rate, etc., etc. With all these things in mind, it can get very intimidating to fence world-class fencers. I would think things like, oh, she's won the world number 1 before. She must be really, really good. Or, oh, she's top 16 in the world. There's no way I can beat her. While respecting and acknowledging strong opponents is a good thing, overestimating them and in turn underestimating your own capabilities and strengths can be deadly. I still find it difficult to avoid respecting my opponents too much, but what I have found helpful is reframing my mindset when I go into bouts. Instead of thinking, I have to win, I think, I want to fence well and I want to have fun. When I'm less focused on the outcome of the bout, I tend to be more free in my action and I fence much, much better. Apart from all that, I also frequently overthink during bouts. My thought process goes a little something like this. So I just got an attack, so I should keep doing it. But since I just hit her on the attack, she'll probably know that I want to attack her again. So maybe I shouldn't attack her then. But then again, attacking her is the best option though. Okay, I know. Why don't I just defend? As you guys can tell, the thought process was pretty much completely illogical. However, it's very, very common for me to think this way. I'm sure many of you guys will be able to relate, only perhaps in a different context. To counter this, what I like to do is to have someone on the sidelines who can reassure and validate me. This could be my coach, my teammate, or even my mom sometimes. Bystanders tend to be able to see things much more clearly, and that's why it's always good to be able to obtain a second opinion. So I guess the main point to keep in mind are, firstly, when you feel like things are getting too overwhelming, try to reframe your mindset. Take a step back and determine what exactly is the issue you are facing and work from there. Secondly, when overthinking hits, reach out to people you trust and seek the comfort and reassurance you need. And saving the best for last. Number 5, Denyse. My name is the one word I hear the most often on the piss. There isn't anything fencing specific with this particular point. What I wanted to convey is that at the end of the day, the name being shouted is mine, not my coaches, not my mom, not my friends. It's mine. To be able to feel that sense of pride when someone is shouting your name, you must have put in the necessary time, effort, and work. Honestly, I feel like there's little to no meaning in finding success in things that have come easy. Many have asked me if I regret dedicating so much time to fencing because of the opportunities I've lost as a result. But frankly, in spite of how much I moan and I groan about the sport, I've never regretted taking up fencing. People are a lot more capable than they think they are. Things can and will be difficult, and it's completely normal to struggle, but with a bit of perseverance, hard work, and planning, you will find your way through. Lastly, I want to talk a bit about impact, which is the main theme of today. Realistically speaking, as a 19-year-old, it's pretty tricky to make a big impact on our community, but I think that's completely okay. Nobody is expecting you to discover the secret to time travel or figure out how to cure cancer. Making an impact can come in the form of starting an online platform to raise an awareness on issues, or simply just making your friend's day with a kind word. As a national athlete, nothing fills me with more pride than standing on top of the podium and singing the national anthem. Representing Singapore is certainly one way I have made an impact on our community, I would like to think. But apart from that, I would like to think that I've also made an impact in other ways. For instance, even as a full-time student athlete, I was able to find time to help my friends out in school, participate in community activities, and even start Project Perspective with my project work roommates, which you can learn more about by scanning the QR code on the screen. There's no excuse for anyone to be unable to do even a little something for our community. So why not start today? In fact, start now. Thank you.